Hey, friends. Welcome to the Divorce Coaching Clarity Show. I'm your host, Lisa Lisser, divorce coach, founder, and CEO of LZL Coaching. I'm also a retired lawyer, a spiritual counselor, a Jewish educator, and a divorced mom of 3 now grown children. I've never been a TV host before, so now I can add TV host to my resume. And this is our first episode. So, welcome again to the Divorce Coaching Clarity Show. You're listening to New Streaming Network, home of Going Bold Media, Going Solo Media, and WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, Podcasts, and TV. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Roku with the Boxcast app. I'm so excited to be joining this team. Thank you, Cece Schatz, the relationship doyen, for inviting me to join this incredible network. We will be live every other Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, sharing thoughts and ideas designed to make your divorce process easier and at least a little less painful. And there it is. I said it. Divorce hurts. It's hard and it needs to be easier. I know. I've been there. It can be really ugly. And it happens to so many of us. According to the US Census Bureau, there were 827,000 divorces in the US in the year 2019. And that number was significantly lower than the divorce rate 10 years earlier in 2009. The good news is that in 2021, the number was down to just over 689,000 divorces. But that's only in the 45 states that report these statistics. Friends, that's a lot of divorces. And divorce impacts so many people: husbands and wives, children, extended families. Divorce impacts the workplace, it impacts school, it impacts education, it impacts communities and social networks. Missed school days, missed work, that's the least of it. That being said, divorce is a fact of life, and we need to treat it that way. And what I do, divorce coaching, it helps remove some of the stigma and shame surrounding divorce. It also helps remove some of that fear, and it provides support, connection, education, empowerment, confidence, and courage to people who are really struggling. And they need to be courageous just to ask for help. That's why I became a divorce coach. I want to be part of delivering the good stuff. So, since this is our first show, we're going to get to know each other. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, who I am, and why I became a divorce coach. In the process, I'll give you some insight into what a divorce coach does for you in the coaching zone and how you can benefit from working with a divorce coach. And throughout our conversation, I'm going to talk about the stories we tell, how divorce can make us feel crushed under the weight of those stories, and how working with the right divorce coach as part of your divorce team can empower you to refresh those stories with a new narrative that shifts your perspective with a different lens and magnifies your strengths that shift the way you tell your story. When you shift how you tell the divorce story, it impacts everything. So let's begin. So here's the thing. Like many of you, I had never heard of divorce coaching. My official divorce process started 12 years ago, and all I knew was I needed a lawyer. I so could have used a divorce coach. And the reason I became a divorce coach as soon as I heard that such a field existed was because I wanted to walk people down the path of divorce, feeling like they have a guide on the side, feeling like they have someone they can ask questions to and not worry that every question is going to cost them an arm and a leg. Feeling like they can really share what's important to them and get some direction about how to articulate what they need to the people who can help them get what they want. And what does that all really mean? It means that when I work with clients, I give them the tools they need to find your voice. So you're not afraid to ask for and get what you need and want. You're not going to get everything you need, not everything you ask for. Nobody does. But you will get more than you might have otherwise. And you'll know that you're getting what you really need. Because the coach gives you that wide angle lens so you can see the big picture. And by working on your divorce, your life with a divorce coach, you get benefits that open up your life's possibilities and go way beyond that divorce. And the benefits you gain will show up in every place that you show up. So, I didn't plan to get divorced. I wasn't that girl. But actually, apparently, I was. And it was final after 24 years of marriage. And we were together 4.5 years before that. It rocked my world. But slowly, I started to breathe a little easier. I learned how to move forward. I made a lot of mistakes, lots of them. Sorry, kids. And then I did better. I made some more mistakes, and then I succeeded in some things. I tried new things, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. And then I tried other new things. I developed my courage muscle. I believe without question that I'm a better version of myself today than I was before. And I plan to be a better version of myself tomorrow. That's my strategy, and that's my philosophy. And that's the philosophy I bring to my work as a divorce coach every day. After my separation, I went back to school and I got a master's in Jewish education. For me, learning about Jewish ideas as an adult changed my life and became a passion. I found that studying Jewish texts and concepts, these ancient ideas, helped me return to myself. It really helped me heal. And it helped me find answers to questions that I didn't know that I had. And I really didn't expect it. So I became a teacher in order to share this gift with others. So while I was at rabbinical school, and that's where I got my master's, I did an externship at a Jewish residential space for addiction recovery called Beit Teshuvah in LA. It's truly an incredible home for recovery. I was so blown away by what I saw there that I was inspired to train to become a certified spiritual counselor. And I was trained by the founders of that space, Harriet Rosetto and Rabbi Mark Borovitz. This was an important stop on my journey toward becoming a divorce coach. But I didn't know it then. You never know what's going to lead you to your life's purpose. And that's why it's always important to try new things. And I always encourage my clients to take risks on new experiences because you never really know where it might lead. I followed my interest in the addiction recovery world out of curiosity and concern. I had a friend whose son was struggling, had struggled. He was in recovery until he wasn't. And that was really hard. So becoming a spiritual counselor in that space was personal. And while I was in that process, I realized that the same skills I was developing in my work in recovery could be incredibly valuable for people going through divorce. People going through divorce are in a trauma or have been through a trauma, and they're in their own kind of recovery. I simply didn't know how to pitch spiritual counseling to divorce lawyers. I thought they would laugh at me. They would think it was like all crystals and woo-woo. So I put this spiritual counseling idea on the shelf. I put it on pause. And I went to work as a Jewish educator. I worked as an assistant director in an after-school Hebrew school, and I taught kids, and I trained their teachers, and I taught their parents, and I taught plenty of other adults in their congregation. I designed curriculum. I facilitated different kinds of programs. I did nonprofit programs that were international. I worked for another Jewish nonprofit. I did all sorts of awareness campaigns. And then I heard that there was a field called divorce coaching. Wow. That one shook me up. That blew my mind. Divorce coaching? This was something I could get interested in. As soon as I heard that there was a profession where I could use my spiritual training as well as my professional training as an attorney, although I didn't want to be a lawyer in this space, my knowledge about how the process worked from a legal standpoint and from having lived it could all blend together. So I shifted, I pivoted. This was my chance. I literally quit my job and enrolled in the certification program immediately. After all, here was the field. It meshed all my talents, all my passions. And I believed that I would be able to provide a huge impact for people who desperately needed to be served differently. Divorce coaching blended everything: leadership, spirituality. It was really important. My personal experience was hard. My divorce was not easy. It lasted almost 3 years, and it was too much. So this is what I needed to do. This is what I need to do now, and I'm doing it right now for you. The mistakes I made in my divorce, I needed to make. I made them for me, but I also made them so you don't have to. You're going to make your own mistakes. I'll help you make fewer of them, less painful mistakes. But the mistakes that we make are there for us to learn. I can't take away all the hurt. You and I both know that divorce is so full of emotional pain. And each of our stories is unique and different. I can't change that part of your story, but I'll help you make some sense of it. And in the process, you're going to become the leader of your divorce, not the victim of it. You're going to become the leader, not the follower. And that's powerful. And that's where the divorce coaching part of my story starts. In a very real way, the divorce coach I am has everything to do with the story I just told. All of the things that happened to me on that journey changed me. They're my experiences. They're my memories. They're my stories. But I have other memories too, darker memories, memories that these days I no longer choose to tell. They aren't the memories or stories that define me anymore. Those memories are part of a story I let go. It wasn't empowering. And while we go through divorce, we can't help but focus on the ugly parts of our story. He did this and she did that. We complain and we share our pain with whoever will listen. And the more we tell the story, the more real it gets. And this is true from a scientific standpoint. It actually becomes more real to us because the neural pathways become more permanent every time we repeat the same story. I was reading a book by David Eagleman called Live Wired, The Inside Story of the Ever-Changing Brain. In it, he describes how neural pathways are like walking a path in the woods. The first time we walk the path or tell that story, we need a machete to cut down all the debris in our way. The next time we tell it, the path is a little bit more clear, So maybe we just need some weed cutters. The third time we walk down, it's not just clear, it's a little wider. The path is a little more well trod until finally, the story is so big, it's like a 6-lane highway. And it's the only truth we're able to hold. We automatically go to that story. We can forget how the story started, but we don't forget who started it. And our perspective is true. Of course, it's true. That story is everything. In divorce coaching, I work with you to revise your divorce story, excuse me. We look at it another way. Instead of taking the highway, that highway road, we look for the scenic route. It may be a little more windy, but it goes forward rather than backward or in circles or even standing still. You're not stuck in the traffic of that story. We look at your values and we rebuild your sense of worth. We explore your past moments of strength. I ask you to remember, when did you have to stand for yourself before? When did you have to stand for someone else in your life who was really important to you? When did you have to use your voice to take care of someone else? And you won. You were successful. We reignite that part of yourself so that you have the courage to stand for yourself now. That's how you build your future. You look at yourself in the present and you say, I know I can do this. I have a voice, even if it feels like it's been silenced. This is how we use the coaching space. I work with you to take layers of story, and we start removing those layers of story so we can reveal what's underneath. And once we start revealing what's underneath, your view shifts. What happened, happened. But when your view shifts, your perspective can change. And then your story becomes new. The person I am today has a lot to do with the story of who I was in the dark times, but that's the person I grew up from. I'm not proud of everything that version of me said or did, but I am proud of that woman. I'm proud that she finally said enough. I'm proud that despite her fears, despite her flaws, she chose to make an earth-shattering change. She chose to say no, and she moved forward. I did the best I could with the strengths and weaknesses I had at the time. And I've overcome many of those fears. I have new ones today. We all do. But I have a totally different perspective on how to deal with them. So I approach my challenges much, much differently. And that's a result of all my experiences and the learning that I want to share with you. It's about being present and focused on the future and not being stuck in the past. Don't get me wrong. The past is important. It's so important to all of us. Our memories make us into the people we are today. Without our memories, we lose some of our sense of identity. We define ourselves, we judge ourselves by the stories we tell about our lives. So how we remember our lives and the stories we tell about the things that have happened to us become our memories, become our identity. But what we don't always realize is that we really can change the stories we tell about the things that happen to us. We can change the stories without changing the facts. And actually, we're not defined by those stories. We're defined by what we do next. One of the coaches I work with regularly, my friend Paul Benke, he blew my mind when he told me this. He said to me, Our thoughts are just our thoughts. Our thoughts are just our thoughts. Oh my God. My head exploded. It was radical. He shared this idea, our thoughts are just our thoughts, but my thoughts keep me up at night. I ruminate. I can't get out of the way of my thoughts. What are you talking about? This was radical. And yet, when I really stopped and thought about it, it's completely true. We get to decide what we think. Our thoughts are just our thoughts. We get to create the stories. We get to. Even when someone else has sort of foisted a story upon us, we don't have to tell that story. We get to tell a different story. It's up to us. How powerful is that? How incredible to realize that we have the tools to reframe and reflect on our experiences and shift our perspective. This is how coaching helps us build awareness and create meaning. But you need a person to give you that nudge. You need a prompt. You need the right questions. That's what divorce coaches do. They ask you questions that maybe you've been running away from. But the right question helps you think again. That's what Adam Grant says. He's the psychologist who does all the organizational dynamics. He has a podcast, the Think Again podcast. It's amazing. Our point of view when we experience a situation while we're in it is different than our point of view when we look back at it. And it's even different again when we analyze it from the distance of a couple years. Let me give you an example from life. So remember when you were a teenager, or maybe even a 10-year-old. Some of my students are 10-year-olds. And you did something that drove your parents crazy. What was the phrase? I think it will sound familiar. Just wait till you have kids of your own. How many of us have looked back on those years and given our own parents some grace, some well-deserved respect where there once might have been anger or even contempt? How many of us judged our parents harshly and now can reflect back and think to ourselves, hey, they had some wisdom. I can judge them with some compassion and even respect. I know I do. Thanks, Mom and Dad. And I'm sorry. The view from here is so much different than the view from there. And so this is where I'm going to close the show. We covered a lot of ground today. We talked about changing the divorce experience from painful to empowered. We talked about revising our divorce stories from darkness to light. We discussed coaching through fear and into courage and trying new things, making mistakes and learning from mistakes. So that's a taste of what you can find when you tune in to the Divorce Coaching Clarity Show. I look forward to speaking with you every other Tuesday at 3 right here. You're listening to the new streaming network, home of Going Bold Media, Going Solo Media, and WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Radio, Podcast, and TV. You can find me at lzlcoaching.com, and you can reach me by email at lisa@lzlcoaching.com. On my website, you can find a scheduling link for a free 30-minute discovery session. And I look forward to answering questions and concerns you might have right here on this podcast, this TV show. So welcome. I hope you gained some clarity today. And I want you to have the confidence and courage to move forward from today Till tomorrow and into your powerful future.